Hello and welcome back. Welcome to part 2 of the order of operations. In this part, we're simply going to do several expressions to apply what we've already learned. So, feel free to write down this problem and pause the video and attempt to solve it yourself. Okay, let's go. The first thing that we're going to do are grouping symbols, and we're going to start with grouping symbols that are innermost. You'll see in this problem, it's not an issue of which grouping symbol to start with because there's only one, the parenthesis. So, 9 minus 4 is 5, and we'll rewrite that. Just like we've done in other sections, once you compute anything at all, it's good to get in the habit of rewriting the problem so you can then assess and move forward. Okay, now that we've done our grouping symbols, the next step would be to compute any exponents. And we don't have any exponents in this problem, so we'll just move on to the next thing, which would be multiplication and division from left to right. We see multiplication with this 2 that's right next to the 5. This is a shorthand way of saying 2 times 5. So our answer here, 2 times 5 is 10. 10 plus 7 is simply 17, or positive 17, and there's your answer. Okay, let's do one that's a little bit more complicated. And I'm going to use a dot for multiplication instead of the X mark right here. Either one will work, but I just like telling you when I'm going to do it. Okay, this is a typical problem that you'll see. So we're going to do grouping symbols in order of the innermost grouping symbols first. You will notice that you have two types of symbols. You have parentheses here, and you also have a fraction line. So would it really make sense in this case to deal with dividing 5 times 8 minus 9 minus 4 by 2 times 4 minus 1? Well, it really doesn't make sense to even tackle that division problem until we simplify the numerator and the denominator. So when you see a fraction line like this, I mean, there will be some cases where you can cross out and cross out and cross out. But here we have parentheses involved, and it's almost like it would make sense to simplify what's in the parentheses before you even do any division at all. Okay, so a lot of times you're going to have to just, you will learn by trial and error, by making attempts, and just by force of habit exactly which grouping symbol to solve first. And here it will be the parentheses. So it's not an issue of parentheses inside of brackets that are inside of more brackets. I mean, that's not the issue that we're working with here. So we have to figure out what's most logical. So 8 times 5 is 40 minus, and what's this in this parenthesis? 9 minus 4, which is 5. And that's all over 2 times 4 minus 1. Okay, so it's still not time to divide yet because what we're looking at is something that can be simplified even further. So we've done the parenthesis and still working with the numerator by itself. When you see this type of fraction, you can go ahead and just do the numerator separate from the denominator, which will allow you to wait until the very end to deal with that fraction line. So 4 minus 5 is 35, and all that is over 2 times 4 minus 1. Now that the numerator is reduced as far as it can possibly be reduced, we can try to reduce the denominator. So we have 2 times 4 minus 1. So that's 35 over 8 minus 1. Can be reduced even further. 8 minus 1 is 7, so we have 35 over 7. Now, once you can no longer reduce the numerator or the denominator, then you can actually divide. Okay. So this is one of those types of problems where you see that you need to simplify the numerator and the denominator as much as possible before you can do that division problem. I know it says that grouping symbols are to be worked first, but here it's not an issue of something like 14 over 7, which can be simplified. That's not what we have. We have a numerator with all these parentheses, and we have a denominator with a multiplication problem and a subtraction problem in there. So you're going to want to simplify them as much as possible before you divide. And like I said, with practice, this becomes even easier when to identify what you need to do. So now that we've reduced this numerator to 35 and we've reduced this denominator to 7, we simply divide. How many times does 7 go into 35? And our final answer is 5. So isn't that beautiful? All of this stuff up here, this huge problem that we saw, it just equals 5. And that's the beauty of mathematics. So I want you to do more of these problems because you only get better with trial and error. And we will return to begin tackling mathematical expressions in our next lesson. So thank you so much, and see you next time.